everybody. This is CHIRLA TV, the immigrant voice, the show where we advocate and communicate what is taking place here in our immigrant communities. I am Edgar Aguilar.
My name is Diana Lucero.
And today we are joined by a wonderful guest. Her name is Elizabeth Rodriguez. She is actually the information and referral specialist at CHIRLA, the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights. And she has been doing that for 5 years. And she assists hundreds of callers seeking information on different topics of concern. Today, we'll be discussing a very important and impactful topic, which is public charge. So, I'm gonna be honest with you. I have no idea what public charge is. Could you let us know what that entails?
Yes, of course. So public charge is a very difficult topic, and that's why we are here today to maybe clarify a few things, right? But before I go into defining what public charge is, I just really want to inform the community that lately there has been a lot of talks on social media or media in itself about immigration, trying to change regulations to determine who will be defined as public charge. So that is huge. So now I am going to define what is public charge, right? Everybody wants to know what public charge is. So public charge is a tool or a test that immigration utilizes to verify or determine whether an individual is going to be more likely to depend on government to support themselves or their family members. And there are also other factors that come into consideration to determine if the individual will be considered public charge. And some of those factors are, for example, your age, your family size, your income, your profession, and your skills, just to name a few. So again, these are testings that they want to determine whether the individual would be considered public charge.
How is this assessment done? You mentioned their family, their age, their health. So how is this assessment done?
Yes. So again, this is something based case by case, but just a few examples. Let's take family size, right? So maybe it's really hard to support a family size of 8 or 10 compared to a family size of 3 or 4. Right? So this could be a negative consideration because it takes more of an income to be able to support a family of 8 or 10 compared to a family of 3 or 4, right? And another example that, that we could use today is, for example, your profession or your skill, right? Maybe we have a lady who is a hairstylist, or we have a landscaper, right? So those might be considered as a profession that could potentially bring income into the home. So they are more likely not to depend on the government to support themselves or their family members. So that could potentially be a consideration that could be positively, right? So those are a few examples, but yet again, this is something that will be determined on a case-by-case situation.
So as you mentioned, public charge has been in the media a lot more now. Does that mean that it just happened yesterday? Is public charge a new thing to our community?
No, of course not. Public charge or these testings by immigration has been happening for many years now, actually for more than 100 years. Can you believe 100 years of testing? That is crazy, right?
It's insane. A century, that's
a huge amount. So what are the consequences an individual can face if they are considered a public charge?
So someone who potentially is going to legalize through a family-based petition, potentially if they are determined to be a public charge, their case will be denied. So therefore, they will not be able to get a green card, and they will not be able to be a legal permanent resident. So that would have a huge impact, not only in the individual, but for the family members as well. And also something that I like to mention here, just because public charge is a very confusing or very hard topic. There are a lot of family members who could potentially apply for public benefits, but are very afraid to be defined as public charge. And so a lot of families out there are not applying for these benefits. So hopefully later on, I'm able to clarify who's affected and who's not. But I just really want to emphasize that because there has been a lot of misunderstanding or confusion on the topic.
Well, I mean, I would think there is misunderstanding with something that's been going on for, what, 100 years?
Yeah.
So you mentioned that this has been going on for 100 years, so definitely can be confusing. And so today, have there been any changes to it? Is there any improvements? Is there any modifications? What's going on in today's day and age?
Yes, so that is a very important question. It's a very tricky one. So as of right now, any person who is trying to legalize their status through a family-based petition in the country, again, I'm going to say in the country, there hasn't been any changes whatsoever. But now, for people who are trying to legalize their status, again, through a family-based petition, and they have to do a proceso consular, meaning a counseling procedure, then they have to do their interview outside of their country, in their home country. So it could be Chile, Peru, Honduras, etc., right? And those individuals, they do need to be careful.
What do you mean they need to be careful?
Yeah, so right now, there has been changes on the Foreign Affairs Manual, and there hasn't been any clarity as of how the home countries are going to interpret the manual, right? So there hasn't been nothing in written how they're making these determinations, whether a family member or the individual is going to be considered as public charge. So yes, it is very concerning just because it's such in a gray area. There's no specifics. And remember, every country could interpreted the manual differently.
So I think it's really important for those folks that are in the country. What kind of services can they still use without being charged the public charge title?
Yes, so now we're going to talk about who is affected and who's not when applying for public benefits, right? And I really want to emphasize this because this is where the confusion comes. So non-cash benefits, meaning no cash in hand, those individuals will not be subjected to public charge, okay? And some examples are, for example, food stamps, right? Or a lot of people know it as EBT.
Right.
So you go to the groceries, you buy your veggies, and you pay with your EBT card. And now it has expanded, right? Now it's in Pollo Loco, I think, or, you know? And another a non-cash benefit could be WIC, so women, infant, and children, right? Or it could be health programs like Medicaid or Medi-Cal, or house assistance like Section 8. Those are to name a few. There are others, but I'm just going to mention a few. So those are non-cash benefits.
So just to highlight again, non-cash benefits could be used without you being called a public charge to the government. Can you give us an example of some programs that would cause you to gain that title?
Yes. So now the ones that you need to flag, right? You have to be aware, or you have to think about it twice before you're applying. So these are called cash aid benefits. So meaning cash in hand. So these are the type of benefits that we need to be aware of and be careful and maybe think about it twice before applying, because potentially it could define you as public charge. And some of the cash aid benefits, for example, TANF, right? Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, or CalWORKs, CAPI, or SSI, so Supplemental Security Income, for example. So those are just to name a few. Again, they are very confusing, but again, don't hesitate to call me, and we could always clarify. But just to make it very clear, cash, anything that is cash aid benefit could potentially define you as public charge.
Does this mean that everybody is subject to be considered public charge, or are there exceptions? Or
Definitely, no. Not everyone is subject to public charge. I want to make that clear. There are exemptions to the public charge policy as of right now, right? So just to name a few, asylees, U-Visa, so a person who is the victim of a crime or domestic violence, BAWA, NACARA, TPS holders, right? Temporary protection status. So those are to name a few, but there are others who are exempt from being considered public charge.
So we've heard rumors about public charge and some of the possible changes that may be happening, but I mean, again, they're just rumors. Can you elaborate on that, maybe clarify some of that?
Yes, so that is a very good question, and before I go into answering it, first I want to make it very clear that this administration has constantly attacked our communities, left and right. We've seen it, and some examples are, for example, CAM, right? They terminated the program, the Central American minors, TPS holders now for a few countries, DACA, DACA Plus and DAPA, and never even got to happen, right? And now we are seeing different proposals to change the definition or to determine who will be public charge. And not only that, but now we've been hearing, we've heard from the White House in itself, there has been leaks of various of different proposals which would change the public charge policy. So that is why you are hearing a lot about public charge in social media, because there's been these leaks of different proposals that could potentially change the definition of what is considered public charge.
And what can we expect if these charges were to take place?
If they were to be finalized, immigrant families will choose between keeping their families together or providing their families of essential needs such as nutrition assistance, healthcare, or other public services.
So it's really hard to listen and hear that folks are going to have to pick between staying with their family or feeding their family. What can be the most impactful change that we can expect?
Okay, yeah, so immigration could determine whether not only an individual would be considered public charge, but now, just an example, let's say that the individual has a family of 5, and the wife uses food stamps or the kids use CalWORKs, for example, then now that's going to be taken into consideration. Maybe the individual is not receiving the public benefits in itself, but they are family members who are. So now that's going to be taken into consideration if this person is going to be considered public charge.
So you mentioned the programs and the benefits, and so which ones can we see being impacted in the near future and be considered public charge?
So I want to keep it very simple. So in the beginning, I said that non-cash benefits are not subject to public charge. But now with this new proposal, it has changed or could potentially change, right? So now, for example, WEEK or food stamps, now those might be considered as public charge. So yes, it is going to be very impactful, very scary, because these are necessities that our families are in need of, right? And let's just be real, the economy is not doing so great. So yes, so these proposals are something to consider, and we need to be aware, and we need to prepare our families if would pass. Again, it's just a proposal. Nothing has passed yet. But yes, it would be very impactful with the proposals that they are leaking.
A lot of people might be affected, a lot of families who might be affected with these changes.
So there has been a census bureau. So I read that over 40 million families will be affected if this proposal were to be finalized or passed even. So that is a lot of families.
That is a lot of families.
A lot of families, and it's very concerning. And these are families who are taxpayers, right? They are working, and yet they are trying to find the ends meet. And sometimes they are in need of these benefits, right? And it's unfortunate what they're trying to propose. Again, it is an attack to our communities, not only immigration, but people of color in general.
That definitely hits home. I know my family, and we depend on these type of services to like feed ourselves. So that really hits home, and I feel like it hits home for a lot of folks watching as well. Can you comment on, is there anything that we can do as a community to oppose these changes?
Yes, I want to tell my community members that there is still hope. Remember that this is just a proposal, simply just that, a proposal. But yet again, we need to be informed and we need to be ready.
If this were to happen, again, it hasn't happened, but in case it were to happen, how long would these changes be effective after?
So before going to that, if this were to be finalized, this would be published on the Federal Register website. So when that is published, we, the people, have the opportunity to comment, to voice out, right? So best believe CHIRLA is going to be there, and we're going to voice out on this horrible proposals that they're trying to implement, right? And not only organizations that are in the movement, but also you, right? You might not be affected directly, but but you could speak up about the issue. So there are different ways that you could contribute to the topic. So, yeah.
So I'm sure a lot of people who might be affected want to get involved, want to get more information, or just really learn what it is or how it is that they're being affected. Where can they go? How can they find more information with CHIRLA?
Well, before you go to that, I just really want to say that, you know, if this were to be finalized, or if it were to be happen, it doesn't happen overnight, okay? It could take weeks, it could take months, all right? So that gives us a little bit of time to prepare ourselves to attack back. right? And to answer your question, please call me. I'm the information and referral specialist. Any concerns that you might have, or if you even think that you might be affected, please call the hotline number. That is the number that I assist callers. So the number, please write it down. It is 888-624-4752. Again, I'm going to say it one more time, 888-624-4752. I am available Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Elizabeth. Again, folks, please stay informed. That's why we're here to inform the community and empower you. Again, none of these changes have taken place, but it is something that could happen. It could become a reality, and that's why we can't just sit back and let this happen. Please log on to CHIRLA at www.chila.org so you can get more informed and to stay informed and feel empowered and not just sit back and let this happen to you, but let's get ready to do something about it. Thank you. I'll see you next time.
Elizabeth.